Hi there, my name's Jason DeWild and I'm the Head of Audio at the Australian Institute of Music, and welcome to part 6, finally, of Pro Tools for Beginners. Thanks very much for all your comments so far. It's been really encouraging, and I apologise for the delay in getting part 6 out there. Today's one is actually it's a pretty big topic, and it's about editing. So to get us started, we're going to just talk about some of the basic selection techniques, zooming in and out, just to get you started with editing, and then we'll move on to more advanced things later on. Here we go. Okay, so today we're going to start a bit of a big one, big topic. This is editing, audio editing no less. It's going to be broken into a number of different parts because it's fairly complicated, and also it's an integral part of any production. Gone are the days where you could just sort of record and mix, which is what we used to do when we were recording on tape. But now with the advent of the DAW, such as Pro Tools and Logic, editing is now sort of its own separate part of the production, and it can take a lot of time. So we're going to go through this pretty slowly because there's a lot involved in it. And firstly, what is editing? Well, editing is really moving audio around or cleaning up audio. And you can see on this particular session that we're looking at here, anywhere where you see a black line is pretty much where I've done editing. So you can see some editing here, editing all along this acoustic guitar track, editing along these guitar parts here. Look at these vocal parts, all edited through here as well. So anywhere where you kind of see a black line is pretty much editing. And it's complicated. So that's what editing is, and we need to do this because if we do take the time, it allows us to really clean up our recordings, removing a lot of the noise, moving the audio to exactly where we need it to be, and is absolutely worth doing. So, okay, so before we can kind of get into actual techniques, we need to kind of revise sort of just getting yourself around in your sessions. So I just want to quickly go through that. As you can see on my session, I've got a lot of tracks, and so the obvious way to sort of move up and down your session is by this scroll bar on the right hand side. So that allows you to sort of find the section that you actually want to, or find the track that you want to edit on. So that's one way. And obviously going horizontally through the session is by this scroll bar here. Okay, so that's a fairly obvious one that we've got there. Okay, of course, all editing takes place on the edit window. So let's just quickly revise how to do that. Remember, in Pro Tools, there's two windows. There's the mix window, and then there's the edit window. And we get across to each of those by using the Command equals button on a Mac. So Command equals gets you into the edit window. Okay. So next phase is we're going to use this vocal track as a bit of an example just for now. Okay, so once obviously you need to position the vocal track somewhere in the middle of the screen, and now we may want to sort of hone in onto a particular line. So the tool that we use to kind of get ourselves around on the session is this tool here, which is called the selector. Okay, this is the selector, very, very important tool because it allows you obviously to move back and forth on the session. So I'm going to section here, but may want to play it here. Okay, so the selector tool allows you to sort of move around in your session. The selector tool also allows you to highlight audio. So as you can see here, by just clicking and dragging with the selector allows me to highlight the audio. And this is potentially what we first need to do when we are editing. Okay, we need to actually select material to do editing with. Okay, and obviously if we want to select another track, we can select just simply another track here. We can select up some vocals up here. So I'm going to just zoom in and just select the material. Okay, once you've got a basic selection, which is what I've got here, what I want to do is to be able to now zoom in on that selection. And there are a number of ways of zooming in Pro Tools as well, zooming in and out. The most, I suppose, visually immediate way, but slightly slower way, is to use these left and right arrow buttons here. So when I choose the right arrow button, you can see that it is now zooming in on the area that I have selected. Okay, and the left arrow button obviously zooms out, allows you to view more of the session. Okay, so zooming in is the right arrow, zooming out is the left arrow. Now that's all fine, but probably better still is to zoom in on the using the shortcuts. So with this on a Mac, it's Command square brackets. I always find that is the easiest one. So I'm using Command square right bracket now, and then Command square left bracket to zoom out. Okay, all right. Okay, now you'll see as well that when I'm zooming in like this, all right, it's actually going to zoom in on the left-hand part of the selection. Okay, the left-hand part of the selection. Okay, so that's really asking for the first bit that it's going to edit. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, you can see now that the right hand part is totally gone. Okay, so let's I see that if I want this particular line, but you can see that the selection is not quite in the right spot. So to change the selection, okay, you hold the shift button down and then click with the selector. So I'm holding the shift button down at the moment, and it allows me to select the material into a finer detail and allows me to move the selection. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit again as well. Right, so I'm holding the shift button, and you can see that I'm just moving the left hand part. And when I hold the shift button and click near the right hand part, it will also select and shift the right hand part of the selection. And now I can zoom in a little bit more. Right, and I can even refine it even further. Okay, so I'm holding here. Now, you'll notice that when I zoomed in, right, it zoomed in on the left-hand border of the selection. So if I've now refined that, that's about as close as I want it. Now I want to get to the right-hand border. A lot of people make the mistake of using this bottom scroll bar to move. Now you can see that just by moving it a little bit, you kind of get it there, but it's a little bit cumbersome to try and, stop yourself here. So the quickest way to move to the right hand part of the selection is to use the right arrow button. So you need a Mac keyboard with a numeric keypad, and then if you use the right arrow button, it gets me to the right hand part of the selection. When I use the left hand arrow button, it gets me to the left hand part of the selection. So it's very useful to use these two buttons to get you around. So now I'm going to refine the right hand part. Remember, I'm holding the shift button down to change the length of the selection. Okay, so now I've actually got a nice selection, the material selected here. Okay. Now, one other thing that I hadn't mentioned, you'll notice that my vocal track actually is a different height to the rest of my tracks in the session. Okay, now that's deliberate. So you can actually change the track height of your tracks, and that's very useful to do when you are editing. I normally like to edit with this track height and then mix with much smaller track heights like this one we've got in here. So to change the height of your track, the easiest way to do it is just via this, see this sort of grey kind of ruler looking like section just down through here, sort of between the track name and where the audio is. If you click in there, you can see that you've got quite a lot of different a range of different track heights, and this will only affect the track that you selected. So I've got now, if I make it small, right, I can make it medium, which is what we just had. I can make it large if you really got poor eyesight like myself, or you can, make it extreme track heights, right? And that's probably a bit too big to be of any use. But you can see that changing the track height is very, very useful for editing. Okay, so we've now got the material that we've selected, and you know what, let's just have a quick listen to that now.
Would you go and lead a happy home and never cast the first stone?
Okay, so you can see that now we've got the selection. Now, note just one little thing here. This selection is part of a larger clip. So here is the name of the clip. We have the selection that's sitting inside that clip. Now, generally what we need to do is notice that the selection itself is not a clip yet. And so really the next phase of editing is to actually create clips. So now that we have the selection, the quickest way to actually create a clip now is to go to the edit window. This is a slightly slower way, but edit window, and we choose separate clip. So this basically takes whatever we have at the selection, right here at selection, Command E, and it creates a new clip out of that selection. So I'll just do that now. So Command E, and you can see now that there is a whole new clip being created. The one that where we've got the selection. I'll just zoom in. You can see that's now a totally separate clip. And what that's done is, in fact, it's chopped up and done a cut where that selection is. So we now actually end up with 3 clips. This one, oops, this one, this one, oops, this one, and this one. All right. So we've now got 3 clips. It's created a clip at that selection. So again, we'll just quickly revise that. So we make the selection, we choose Command E, and that creates a new clip. Now, once we've got that clip, we can actually do a number of things with it. We can delete it, for example. We can actually pick up that clip and move it somewhere else to a different track, for example. We can maybe make a copy out of it and move it somewhere else down here. Okay, so there's a lot of things that we can actually do once we create the clip. It has no effect on audio except just the fact that it's created a cut at that particular point. Okay, so that's the sort of the basics of it. So again, we use the track heights to find which height we want to actually have. We move our session around. We select using the selector. Right, we use Shift to change the selection length. We zoom in by using Command square brackets, and it means we can change the selection length a bit more. When we want to get to the right hand side, we use the right hand arrow button. That gets you to the right hand part of the selection, and we can use the Shift to change that. We can zoom out again, and then Command E creates a new clip. So that's the basics for editing so far. In the next one, we're going to look at some of the tools and some of the modes which we most often use for editing. Till next time, check you later.
So there were some of the tools and modes that we use for editing. In the next part, we're going to be talking about some of the actual techniques that uses everything that we've learned so far in editing. Till then, take care.